Welcome back to another episode of Kansas City Leaders. I'm really excited to be on the show today. My guest is Martha Jaynes. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Platte County Board of Services, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here.
So just starting out, can you tell me a little bit about Platte County Board of Services, what your mission is, what you do?
Platte County Board of Services has been in Platte County since 1975. We've been there for 50 years. Last year was our 50th anniversary. We are what is known as the Developmental Disability Resource Board for Platte County. Long story short, there was a Senate bill that went through in 1969 that gave every county in Missouri the ability to put a tax levy to the voters to help support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Platte County was the third county in the state to enact that tax levy, and so Platte County Board of Services was born in 1975 as a result of that levy.
Okay. So there are other counties who have something kind of like what you guys do. Is that correct?
We do. We are across the state, and Ohio is the only other state that has a similar program to ours. But it's really kind of the county board is a unique entity to Missouri in the support of individuals with developmental disabilities.
So I've actually heard some people talk about Platte County Board of Services, and they've said that you are basically kind of a hidden gem. Like you're a resource that a lot of people in the Kansas City community, and you serve people in Platte County, but there's a lot of people just in the region who don't even know you exist. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. For a number of years, the organization kind of operated in-house. They were known as what was in the beginning, they started in a church basement with 5 people. So it was a very small organization. It was just a way to help individuals with developmental disabilities find employment and then also be supported in their residential living. So we started an employment services in the church basement with 5 individuals. It expanded from that. They opened a group home over on Bell Road in Parkville area. The home is still there. It's no longer used as a group home. But then, and literally they 1 employee and 5 individuals started the organization. So
I have actually been out to your facility in Platte County. And listeners, if you're in Platte County, this is definitely something, if you have an individual in your family who is an adult or a child with disability, it's really, really a cool facility to check out. So I went out there. Would you just tell me a little bit about like what I was seeing when I went out to see the facility? Like, what did I see? They have this room where people are working with people, et cetera.
The admin building that we work out of right now is divided, for lack of a better, I guess, kind of 2 levels. We have all of our admin services are up on the 2nd floor. On the 1st floor, we operate what is a dehabilitation program that helps individuals with developmental disabilities find volunteer opportunities, connect to their community. It gives them a place to go during the day, so they can interact with peers. They can get to know their community a little bit more. They can explore some of their options for getting involved in the community. It's a fantastic program. The caveat that we have, or the very unique thing that we have, is we see ourselves in a lot of ways as the gap filler in Platte County. If an individual a lot of times different organizations with different missions, sometimes the higher need individuals will not get accepted into different programs. We take everybody. We don't, regardless of their level of behavioral support, regardless of their medical need, we really see ourselves as that role because we are the county board. We see ourselves as that it's essential services for people who need them most.
So with that, I know that you also have a big a transportation program.
We do.
Will you tell me, because it's not immediately obvious when you go into the facility. It's so tell the listeners a little bit about what that transportation program is.
In 2023, we conducted a countywide needs assessment in Platte County. Transportation was our 2nd highest need that came up. At that point, we had, I think it was a fleet of about 30 vehicles that went through the Kansas City area, and they did transport people to competitive employment. They transported people to different programs throughout the day. But really, in the last 4 years, we've really expanded that program. We put a link on our website for people to fill out if they had need for transportation. And as that data started coming in, we concentrated on growing that program. And so now we have a fleet of 50 vans. We provide transportation to about 130 individuals a day. And we take them from competitive employment to sheltered workshops to other day habilitation programs like ours. We transport people, pretty much wherever they need to go. What we're working on now, and our focus is, our challenge is how to expand that transportation into an on-demand program. And that's something that we're working on, just trying to explore the options of how we would get that going.
So with your transport program, you actually transport people all over the metro area.
All over the metro area, yeah.
Okay. How many different vehicles do you have right now?
We have 50 vehicles.
Okay.
Now that we run.
So, and I'll get into questions because listeners, we're recording this in April of 2026 right now. And for those of you who aren't aware, if you live in Kansas City, you probably need to be aware there's something big happening in June this year. We've got the World Cup coming here. So we have a couple of big marquee games that are going to happen here. And I don't know how many people they say are going to be adding to the. Have you heard any numbers on that? Like how many people are going to be in town?
At least it's over 1 million. It's like 2 to 4 million, I think, is what the estimates are.
Okay. So it's going to be going to be a real challenge. So logistically, have you at Platte County started talking about how you're going to manage the transport thing during that? So what are the ideas on that right now? So
the ideas on that right now is, we have a transportation manager, Brandy, she's amazing at what she does, and she and her team have been diving into looking at their routes, where their routes go. They've also been looking at the different locations where the buses will meet to take people, because a lot of what's happening with the transportation is you'll have drop-off areas in North Kansas City where people will be able to park their car and then ride a shuttle down to the festivities that are going on throughout the Kansas City area. And so we're looking at where those drop-off locations will be, how they will impact our routes. We have a system of alternate routes that we can take, and we're working with other organizations in the area to coordinate efforts in case someone's vehicle gets stuck somewhere. We will have backup for how we will get to that vehicle and get people where they need to go.
So Platte County Board of Services, you provide services to people who live in Platte County, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there similar services to yours in Clay and like Johnson County, or?
There is. Clay County has a Disability Resource Board. It's the fantastic organization. They focus on providing services in Clay County, and then in Jackson County, it's known as ETOS, and ETOS is another fantastic organization in our Kansas City area. ETOS, like us, does transportation. Clay County has a heavy focus on residential services and sheltered workshops, along with employment programs and other things that they do. Clay County also is one of the boards that both Clay County and ETOS provide what they call targeted case management. Our targeted case management goes through Center for Human Services, which is the same organization that serves Clay County. So it's kind of a little confusing. For whatever reason, Missouri likes to keep disability resources a little confusing for people, but that's what we're here for. We're here to map out the confusion and help people find a way to connect to services.
So if people are listening to the podcast right now and you're in Clay or Jackson, those organizations or stuff are those organizations are ones that they should reach out to and see
very
what
much
services
so. Yeah. And if they need help contacting those organizations, we are happy to help. So if they reach out to us and we find out they live in Jackson or they live in Clay, we have great partnerships with those organizations, and it's a very fluid system.
So the overall premise of the show is a place we're trying to make the best place, Kansas City, the best place to live, play, and work. Mm-hmm. Are you originally from Kansas City? I don't think you are. Right?
I am not. I grew up in Michigan, just a little bit north of Flint.
Okay. So tell me, what was your journey like? How did you end up in Kansas City?
We came to Kansas City in 97. Basically was a job transfer for my husband. It was one of those career moves that you just need to make as a family. My kids were in second and third grade, and we just, when he was offered the job, we transferred to Kansas City, and we made Parkville our home, and we've been here ever since.
Oh wow. What is something you really love about Kansas City? Like, how is it different? I'm not saying anything's wrong with Michigan. I got friends
Mm-hmm.
up in Flint,
Yeah.
right? But the question is for you, what do you particularly like about Kansas City?
I think the thing that I particularly like about Kansas City, and people say it all the time, but it's a big city with a small town feel. You feel like you know your neighbors. You feel like you're connected to people. There's a genuine air of neighborliness and familiarity that I just hope never goes away from Kansas City. It is one of the nicest places to live. I love how we've watched throughout the years how culturally Kansas City has developed. When we first moved to the area, and especially in the area that we lived in, it was not really culturally diverse, and it's been fun to through the years watch how that has expanded and grown, and the acceptance. I often walk English Landing Park here in the Parkville area, and just watching how that area has transformed. And you can, used to go to the park and there were about four people there, and they all looked like me, talked like me. And now you go to that park and there is such a broad, diverse spectrum of people all the time. And I think that is one of the most, it's what I missed from when we lived in Michigan. And I'm so glad to see it here in Kansas City. And just the overall feel of what it feels like to live here in the city is just, we have made it our home. And we actually had the opportunity after we'd lived here for about a year and a half to move back, and we said, no, this is our home, this is where we want to be. So
It's kind of funny you say that. I'm not from here originally
yeah.
either, and I've been very few places in my life where people they genuinely love the city. They love what it's doing. They love how things have been developing, and I think we're seeing um, kind of a lot of those fruits borne out. You talk to people about what things were like around 2000 when
Mhm.
you originally got here near that time, and how things have really progressed and changed over the past 10, 15
Yeah.
years. And I think it's pretty cool. I think they do call it the city of fountains.
Yeah.
I heard somebody said we have the most working fountains of any city in the world.
Yeah.
Rome has more, but we have the most that actually work. So, but I guess if you go
That's
back
funny.
2,000 years,
That's
that's what you
funny.
get.
I think
that's what I heard.
my big thing in the last few years of Kansas City is the goal to be the most accessible city in the world, and the strides that we have made there. That's what's near and dear to my heart.
So,
I see inclusion and accessibility as a huge part of what we should be doing in the world.
well, then
So,
why don't we break that open for a minute? Why don't we
mhm.
talk about how accessibility is, if you're going to make a city the best place to live, play, and work? What does that mean to you, and how does that change kind of the landscape for everybody?
Right. I think what that means to me is that you consider all members of your community, and we build a community that makes sense for everyone. We hold space for other people and other opinions and other places. I think some I think that's just one of the most important things that you can do. And we're talking about inclusion. It's not it it's the structural part of conclusion. It can be as simple as building a ramp instead of a staircase. Some of the things that I see, in this day and age, we still live in a situation where most people who use a wheelchair for to get where they need to go have to enter buildings through the back door. Like, to me, that's just the most ludicrous thing we can work on in this country, when individuals are not cannot access their local businesses or their local government offices or whatever it is through front door access. That's just, I think that's a problem. And I like the fact that Kansas City is looking at it and addressing it. I mean, it's the quiet rooms that they built into the airport, right?
Yeah.
And Kansas City also uses what a lot of people probably don't realize is there's actually a sunflower symbol that people can wear when they go to the airport. And if they have that sunflower symbol on their clothing, or somehow, it's an indication that they have an invisible disability. And that might be someone who experiences ADHD or autism or a number of things that you don't just look at that person and immediately know, right? And so they have the sunflower symbol that is widely recognized as, and people who work in the airport and people who are around the airport who know that symbol can recognize that symbol and know that this individual may need some extra support and help, and that's okay. And I think all of those things together, it's not just the physical, but it's also the the emotional and the intellectual and the different ways that we approach things that are just so important to build an inclusive world.
So I wanted to bring something up for the listeners. So I did a little bit of research before the show, and I read a statistic that 1 in 4 Americans either have a disability, whether seen or unseen themselves, or have a direct family member
Mm-hmm.
that they're supporting who does. Can
Mm-hmm.
you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what we do is we put disability in a little tiny box, and we still we unfortunately we still label it as those people, right?
Yeah.
And yet the reality is that every one of us in some way will be touched by disability within our lives. If you've ever broken your foot and
Yes.
had to walk with a cast, you know what it's like to have your mobility challenged. If you've ever, you have a family member that might suffer a stroke, you have a family member that might, be in a car accident. There's so many different ways that it gets introduced into people's lives, right? But we tend to look at people and say, well, I wasn't born with this, so it won't, and somebody in my family wasn't born with this, so it doesn't matter to me. When the reality is, it matters to all of us. If you're in a wheelchair, even for 3 months because you had an injury, you still want to be able to roll right up into your county buildings or your library or wherever you're going, as opposed to having to, for 4 months, use a backdoor exit to get there.
So this is really so kind of we talk about and I was the next question this leads right into it. We talk a lot about on the Kansas City Leaders. We talk about how do you grow the community, because what we're ultimately talking about here is that we are kind of, for lack of a better term, we are a brother's keeper to some extent.
Yeah.
This idea of community, and I'm not trying to make this is not a religious thing for me.
Right.
It's literally that things happen in community.
Right.
It's the people you love, know,
Yeah.
and it's wherever it is. It could
Yeah.
be your social engagement, it could be your school, your
Right.
church, it could be the improv group that I see
Yeah.
every week. So it could be anything, and there's a community there, and by granting accessibility, you're speaking to everyone in the community.
Yeah. The prevailing model of disability that we use in our world right now is what's known as the medical model of disability. The medical model of disability simply says you have a diagnosis, and and here's your diagnosis, and that's going to create a problem for you. That's going to be a barrier for you. That's going to be a barrier in this way, that way, whatever that diagnosis might be, right? The social model of disability is an expanded model. It says disability is a natural part of all of us. It's everywhere. And by building an inclusive world and by acknowledging that people of all levels of ability walk amongst us and around us every day and operate every day, we make space for that and we consider that. We use universal design when we're planning a new building. We plan for the fact that people are going to maybe need different levels of accommodations when they come into the workplace. We plan our society within a mind that accepts every individual, instead of telling the person, you have the problem, you have to figure it out.
So I guess at a fundamental level, this is about not creating an additional barrier for someone who has a disability.
Right.
This is about making it so that is not one other thing they have to overcome. Let's just say if I break my foot, that's enough in recovery. Right. I've got to deal with that. I've got to deal with the fact that I've got crutches, walker, cane, etc. And it's about not creating an extra barrier for them to enjoy their life.
Right.
I think that's a really noble pursuit. Personally, how do you reach out, and how do you spread your mission and enhance that idea of the collaboration and fostering a sense of community and the things that you do?
We have a number of different ways that we do that. We have recently been working really hard with our local school systems. That's a big part where it starts. By working with Park Hill School District, Platte County R3, North Platte School District, and also the Western School District. Our mission there is to start meeting families from the moment that child hits the school setting. It's a community place where most people meet, and schools are just a natural part of so by meeting those families there and helping them navigate not only that child's education, but then beyond education. So many, planning for the future looks different for a child with a disability than it looks for, what people call normal. There is no such thing as normal, right? But anyway, just like any other student, a student with a disability needs a game plan for how they're going to be successful in life, and that can look like a million different ways. It's just like any other student, right? It's just, and so by connecting to those families and helping those families understand how to navigate, that's really important. We've also set up a critical partnership with Center for Human Services, and they have on their team now a team of resource specialists. They are brilliant, and they will help families connect the dots and find the resources that they need in order to help their loved one, help their help move forward in a way that they need to.
Now,
So,
I know you work with a government organization. Are there any
mhm,
private organizations that you, I know you can't necessarily recommend anyone,
mhm.
but are there any that you think are doing good work right
There's
now?
a million organizations. There's, well, not a million maybe, but there's a lot of organizations that are doing really good work. One of the things that we do is we are also a funder. So we have a
Ah,
system in September. Other organization like ours throughout this in the Platte County area who serve Platte County citizens with intellectual and developmental disabilities can come to us and apply for funding every year.
oh,
So we fund a number of programs. We fund the Farmer's House, for instance. They have an early work experience program. Again, helping students in school learn about employment and grow. We are a big funder of that program that Farmer's House runs. And so we help Farmers House in their employment services. We help Farmers House in their early work experience. We fund Easter Salesman West, another great employment organization here in the Kansas City area. We fund Summer Future Foundations, fantastic organization, and some of the fun things that they are doing, some of the crazy things that they are doing are just amazing. So we actually fund 18 other organizations. We fund things like Northland Therapeutic Riding Center, which offers therapeutic riding resources for individuals. We fund Down syndrome innovations. I mean, I could go on and on. We help fund Special Olympics. We help fund just
wow,
on and on and on.
wow.
So there are so many organizations that are out there that are doing great work. Northland Connections is another organization that a lot of people don't know about that has a really great program that we fund. It's just there's and we're not the sole funder for those organizations. They need
Sure.
volunteers, they need donations, they need help, but we can help with those services. And our funding model is mostly a pay for service model. So as those organizations get paid by the services that they provide, and there's a huge expansion of there's so many levels to the different organizations and the different services they provide. Autism supports, employment support, social enrichment opportunities. um, One of our flagship programs that we started a number of years ago in partnership with North End Connections is known as Neurodiverse City, and it's basically a free community space in Zona Rosa that anyone can attend. It's not just for
Huh.
neurodiverse individuals, but the whole concept around the program was to open a community space that's free and welcoming that anyone can come to. Forget the norm, you belong here is the motto.
Sure.
Everyone can come, and everyone can engage in a way that's meaningful and connecting. That program over the last few years has exploded, and it has, in fact, it got so big that we kind of stepped back and handed it over to Northland Connections,
Hmm.
and they have just grown. We branched out, and now we are running what is known as mobile NDC. So we felt like staying stagnant in one area was just not working for us in Platte County, and we wanted to be able to meet we wanted to be able to reach our most northern neighbors. The interesting thing of Platte County is Highway 92 is kind of like a break off point.
Sure.
If you're south of 92, you got a lot of access to services. If you're north of 92, not so much. So we said, why don't we create a program instead of expecting people to come to us? Why don't we create a program that goes to them? And NDC was born. It's literally a van, and it goes to your community, and it sets up social enrichment and engaging opportunities for you in your community. And it's another fantastic program. The gentleman that operates that is just a wonderful individual. His name is Joe Harmon. He has he's a gentleman that's grown up with autism. He's a comedian. He does a lot of improv.
Huh.
He teaches self advocacy through comedy. He does all kinds of very creative, amazing things, and that's another program that we think was going to be really helpful for our community in helping create those spaces for people to belong and feel important and feel connected to their community.
No, that's really
So,
cool. Are
yeah.
there see, this is, I keep thinking about like building community. Like, are there things similar to this in Jackson County or in Clay? Are there similar things like that?
There's similar programs to
Mhm.
everything that we do in Jackson and Clay County. Yeah. Yes, but specifically neurodiversity and mobile neurodiversity is unique to Platte County.
Got it.
Yep.
Is there any way y'all can do y'all? And so I don't know how it works between these
Mhm.
state agencies. Is there any way you guys can get together and powwow and cross pollinate? Because it sounds like
We do.
Okay, so that was my question.
Yeah,
Really.
we
Okay.
as a member of as the disability dis, developmental disability resource board in Platte County, we are connected to an organization called MACDDS, another acronym. We love acronyms in my line of work. But MACDDS is a collection of all the different counties and disability resource boards throughout Missouri. Not every county that has a disability resource board is a part of it, but the majority of them are. And so we get together and we collaborate and we work to we do a lot of work with legislation in Jeff City. We do a lot of work in throughout the state, supporting each other, collaborating with each other, learning best practices from each other, learning, comparing notes and what's successful and what's not. And we work together. We are also a member of a group called STARLING, and STARLING is the same type of organization that MACDDS is, but it's basically a collection of service providers throughout the state of Missouri. And we do the same thing. We work together to legislate. We work together to help make people aware of who we are and what we do. We work with Jeff City and help make sure that legislation that's going through includes individuals with disability. And so that, because everything that we do is either reliant on tax funding or Medicaid funding. Both those sources of funding have come under fire in the recent years. People are looking at those two sources of funding. Well, the reality is, if you take away all your taxes and you you cut Medicaid cuts, there are people that are affected by those decisions.
Sure.
We understand that a lot of people, legislators and different people, they have ideas. It's ideas, how to do a tax cut, to take things somebody came up with an idea on how to help their community.
Sure.
And we just want to make sure that when you have these ideas on how to help your community, that you also have the people with disability in mind, that you're not making your idea doesn't negatively impact the people that we serve.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if it's a quarter of all the people are at least impacted by this, either directly or adjacent, it sounds like it's constituents you definitely should keep in mind with that. Yeah. Aside from the moral component on this, where I think it makes sense. Yeah. But just from a fiscal standpoint, that seems to make sense. You don't want to do that in the body politic. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your personal journey. You recently they recently made you the CEO of Platte County. Congratulations. That was last year, I believe, right? So let's talk about your journey getting into disability services. What is your journey? How did you get into this? And how did that kind of happen? Now you're the CEO of a fairly large organization.
My journey actually started back in Michigan.
Okay.
In Michigan, I was a part of a program that we lived just a little bit north of the Detroit metro area. And I was actually, I feel myself tearing up a little bit. I was actually a part of it was a specially funded program that was funded through Medicaid that put an extra set of hands in every classroom K through 3. The idea is to have by having that extra support in the classroom, you would increase reading scores, comprehension. You would increase student success overall. Not just reading, math, science, whatever. You would increase students overall. classrooms are often overfilled and it's hard for the teacher to get to everybody. In the classroom that I served in, the teacher there, Mary Lou Retton, not Mary Lou Retton, Mary Lou Siefkin, Mary Lou. I got that.
Olympic
I do
gymnast.
that all the time.
Mary Lou
I do
Retton
that all
on
the
the
time.
podcast.
Boom, names
Yes,
mixed up.
no.
My husband will laugh.
Okay.
There's a
It's fun.
backstory on that one. But anyway, Mary Lou Siefkin was the teacher in the program, and there were a couple of students in that program that in her classroom that had a disability, and she recognized that very easily in the classroom. I made a very quick connection with those students, and so that's where it started. Me in the back of a classroom at a little round table with two kids who had developmental disabilities, who were so often overlooked in the classroom. And we sat back there, and it was my job to make sure that they understood what was being told, what was being shared in the classroom, and help them achieve their student success. And that's what I started with. We made up to the we changed the words to James Taylor's Mexico. So we learned about whale migration by changing the names to Mexico, because it's, Mexico, way down south where the whales like to go.
I really want to hear this song now. So,
wow. But that's really where it started. And then when we moved to Kansas City, I thought I was going to be on the educational journey. And so I moved to Kansas City, enrolled in Park University, started on my I was 31 years old and started on my college career, thinking I was going to go in as a teacher, and went to Park University there. And then through different reasons or different things, just felt like teaching wasn't where I was going to end up. But what I did end up was, as I worked with the Park Hill School District when they first brought the recovery room program into their school district. And so then for a number of years, I worked as a recovery room person there in the Park Hill School District. And again, simply the way that I connected to those students, especially those students with a little bit of more challenging behaviors maybe, or needs, the school district asked me to step into what was then the day school, and we operated in Holly Hall on Park University campus. So for a number of years, I worked in that program, helping those students. And then due to life circumstances and different things, I kind of got out of that realm for a little while.
Sure.
It was a number of different reasons. I wanted to complete my college education. I wanted to make a little bit more money to help my children in their college educations and different things. And then ended up back just by a matter of happenstance, and a visit from an old student who said, Miss Martha, you changed my life. And I just, he recently just showed up on my doorstep one day and said that. He said, Miss Martha, you changed my life. And wow. I want, and I wish you could change more people like you changed me. And that just propelled me into, I have got to get back to doing something that makes a difference in my community. Not that I wasn't at the time. I was working at a local bank. I was finishing up my master's degree. My business degree is in social entrepreneurship that fulfills for-profit businesses that fulfill a social purpose, and
sure.
business leadership and development. So that's what my MBA is in. And through that process, I ran into a local leader at the time that was working with individuals with developmental disabilities and helping them find jobs. And she said to me, hey, I know of a job opening, and I think you'd be great for it. And so I entered into the arena of employment disability support and worked for a local organization and helped create their adult employment program, helped get that up and running and helped get that going. And after a few years, went to a couple of different organizations in different areas, but always still working in employment. And then just kept, but the call to me was, those organizations were great, but they didn't just focus on my community. And so I felt very strongly that I wanted to be a part of the organization that directly provided supports in my community. I knew about Platte County Board of Services, and so I was very purposeful. Um, I made a game plan that I wanted to be a part of Platte County Board of Services. I wanted to join that organization and assist them in their mission of developing tools and providing resources that people to give people the opportunity to live the life of their choice.
So you started with Platte County Board of Services in what year?
I started with them in 2022.
So in 2022, and now you're kind of directing the whole thing now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an incredible story.
Yeah.
The thing I want you to right now, I want you to think about the listeners. What is one actionable piece of advice you could give to the listeners right now if they want to get involved in the community, if they want to be involved and make a difference? What would you tell somebody?
First off, go out into community. Learn what is in your community and available to you. There's so many programs and organizations that are out there that people aren't. We get pigeonholed. We get stuck in our little, we do the same thing every day. We go to the same grocery stores, the same restaurants, the same, explore your community. Get out in your community. Find out what's going on. You would be amazed at the amount of, for instance, so often county governments get overlooked, right? Nobody realizes the amount of impact that a local county government has over your day-to-day life. Investigate, learn, right? The other thing is make space for people, make space for all people, and do it in a way that is respectful and meaningful. Don't assume that the adult with a developmental disability that you meet in the grocery store is the perpetual child, right? Like we infantize disability so much, stop looking at the limitations and start looking at the possibilities. Make a declaration of possibility of what you want your community to be, and then find the commitment to go out and make that possibility a reality.
So I really like that. Stop looking at the limitations and start looking at the possibilities. Right. I feel like that's a very strong statement.
Yeah.
And I wonder how often we are self-limiting in what is possible.
Right.
On kind of a day-to-day basis. How do you personally? Okay, so now how do you stay personally informed and connected with the community in Platte County and in Kansas City in general?
We've been doing a lot in the last few years to really expand and understand what is in our community. The needs assessment that I referred to earlier that we did in 2023 was the first one that I think had ever been done in Platte County that focused on intellectual and developmental disabilities. Like I say, we've connected to our school systems. We've connected to different organizations. We've worked with, I just recently connected to Parkville Living Center, and oh my gosh, what a cool organization. A lot of really great things to do. Marcus Flores runs just an amazing program.
What do they do?
They just do all kinds of supports. A lot of it is with seniors in the in the Parkville area, but then he's expanded his senior program into Weston and into Dearborn and into different areas here. And it is focused on seniors, but then they also work with all ages of people and support and just help people live a better life, be more connected, and I think that's part of it. It's like you would be amazed at how many little different organizations are out there that sometimes operate in bubbles, because again, we get into those little patterns. Again, that's it's just and it's funny because like me myself, I've lived in Parkville since 1997. I drove past where that living center was, I don't know how many times in my life, never stopped in, and it wasn't until like someone said, hey, you need to meet Marcus and see what he's doing. It's breaking out of your bubble, anyway, but that's kind of like what I try to do with.
I heard a quote the other day. There's a talk that David Bowie gave years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as a creative, he said, you want to go out to where you're just a little bit beyond where you think you can go. Like where the water is a little bit deeper than you think you can go, and get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's where the real, and for him, it was artistry. That's where that really lies. And I think that's a good recommendation for all of us in our lives. Go out and do something like you'd never stop at the community center. I mean, how many of us just drove by things every day? And you're like, oh, I've never seen that before, right? I'll check out this there's an amphitheater up here in Gladstone, for
Yeah.
example. I didn't even know that was there, and I ended
Yeah.
up catching a concert of all things.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. I think a lot of us, yeah, I feel like that's a little bit, and I'm not waxing philosophical here, but I do think that's a little bit what we're missing in our communities now. A lot of
Yeah.
people, we're online and we're more isolated than ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's so. If you're
Yeah.
listening to the show, go out, get lost, do some things out
Yeah.
there, go check things out you haven't done before. Are there any like local leaders or influencers in Kansas City that you think we should either have on the show, or people that you really look up to and you say, hey, these people are doing some great things in this area?
Ooh. Okay. So right off the top of my head would be my friend Carla Barksdale.
Okay.
She's amazing. She's an attorney here in the Kansas City area. She's been a huge impact on my life. Um, I would maybe think of a couple other, maybe some of the leaders of some of the organizations that I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Amy Allison and the work that she does with Farmers House is really impactful. Abigail Whitney runs a wonderful program at Easter Seals Midwest here in Kansas City. Cassidy Joby, oh my gosh, you've got to get Cassidy on the program. Cassidy and her work with employment services and the support that she gives to and is just yeah. I mean, I could go on and on. Kathy Huddleston from Northland Therapeutic Riding Center. Of course, you see the theme here, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all it's all. But then even beyond that, like when I look at things like honestly, I think a person that has really inspired and impacted me a lot, and she probably doesn't even realize it, is Sandra Thomas, who's a local CPA here in Kansas City and a part of the BNI
Yeah.
group. And I appreciate Sandra and the leadership that she shows to our community. I mean, I got Jessie Connor and her work with, oh my gosh, Jessie Connor and her work with the Journey program at Park Hill. Oh man, what a cool program. I mean, just on and on and on. I realize that I'm very woman focused and very kind of focused, but it's
Yeah.
my industry. It's what I'm in. And I think all of these things are a part of what we don't realize is there.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I would say Karen Tucker, who started Tucker Time Coffee with her son,
Okay.
oh my gosh, what a cool story. What a cool person.
So I'm
yeah.
interested in. I would love
Yeah.
to have all these people on
Yeah.
the show, and I know we eventually can. The idea is to do more and more of these.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people don't. I kind of think, and this is maybe a little odd. I think about like all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to
Mhm.
make something happen.
Mhm.
Any event that's ever put on,
Mhm.
you might see the speaker on stage at a conference or whatever it is, but
Mhm.
you don't realize there were 60 people working together to put
Right.
that event on.
Right.
And your organization, you rely heavily on. I mean, you're literally at the top of it now, but you rely on a lot of people. Your transportation director,
Yeah.
you rely on all these people, things to make
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
And I think those people are unsung heroes a lot of times, but they are kind of they're the things that make the machine work.
Right.
And
Right.
without them, we don't have anything.
Right.
I have this existential or future looking question I like to ask is that how do you see the future of Kansas City and what role do you hope to play in that? This is kind of like as a whole.
Yeah. I think how I see the future of Kansas City, if Kansas City can continue to focus on its goal of being the most accessible city in the world. I know that Variety KC recently just launched an initiative to build, I don't know how many parks throughout the area. It's huge, right? Accessible parks. I think things like that are going. I see Kansas City growing and flourishing. I see Kansas City becoming a city that people come to. It is becoming more and more of a destination city, and I think we will see more of that. I think we will see. We have just gotten started getting on the map, right?
Yeah, I know.
When we first moved to Missouri, my friends back home and family in Michigan would always call and go, "How is things in St. Louis?" And I'd always say, "I have no idea," you know.
Absolutely.
But I see Kansas City expanding and growing and being recognized on the world stage as well as just throughout the country. So I see those kinds of things happening. The role that I see in it is to continue on the journey that I'm in. Helping to create those spaces that are more accessible, helping to create those spaces that are more understanding. I think I would love to see us get, I think I would love to see us just, I would love to just continue and expand. And I think one of the important things is we've just started an initiative working on a resource network for parents to really truly connect resources and help people understand how they can, from birth through their entire lifespan, a network of resources that people can easily access, where they know what services are there, what services are available to them throughout their lifespan. And I really want to see that program grow. I'd love to see some entrepreneurial things in Kansas City. Uh, the other part of my heart is I would love to see an entrepreneurial part of Kansas City that embraces people with disabilities.
Sure.
I would love to see a program going that, it, for lack of a better term, might be some kind of incubator program that helps students transition from high school into adult life, that focuses on individuals with IDD, and just really make a meaningful career path for them, make a future for them. Um, Stop some of the like knee jerk reaction of, oh well, a diagnosis to a disability is a diagnosis to poverty, because the only option for you is to get on SSI and be supported for the rest of your life, right? We are missing so many opportunities by not employing adults who have a variety of abilities to be able to do the most amazing things in the world. That's what I want to continue to work and grow and see. I want to see us just flourish and grow and have a, and and see the world for what it is.
Yeah.
A very diverse, wonderful world that makes room for everyone.
We,
So
I've always believed personally that, and I know it's gotten, I think it's been twisted a little bit, but diversity, there's a lot of strength in diversity.
there is.
Diversity gives you resilience.
Right.
They always talk about it. If everything looks the same, and that's how populations can get. It sounds weird, but like they talked about diversity, not just in genetics or whatever it is,
Right.
but the idea is that gives you resilience.
Right.
That gives you support and structure. Because if everybody at your organization or company looks exactly the same and works exactly the same,
Right.
and you get caught flat-footed because of something happened, there's no one with the ideas to think, throw away the box. Don't look outside the box. There shouldn't be a box, right?
Right.
It's like, how do we use this to our advantage? How do we move on this?
Right.
I've always felt for a long time it's a major asset to any company.
It is.
And
I think of when you were speaking, I thought of the old phrase, my enemy is my friend whose story I do not know. And if we simply sit with people and hear their story and hear what they believe is important and what they believe is true, I think we would find that we are more connected than we ever thought. We have more alike than we have
Oh yeah.
we have more alike than we ever dreamed possible. And that is what will make us strong as a community.
When you talked about like county and city government,
Mm-hmm.
the actions taken at the county and city level have a much more direct impact on your
Yes.
life than anything that happens at the federal level.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the federal government isn't important,
Right.
but we're fighting about things there instead of getting
Right.
involved in our school boards and our PTAs
Right.
and in the local community, because
Right.
that's where the kids grow up.
Right.
That's
Right.
the stuff that they
Right.
see.
Right.
And I've always felt that's
Right.
it's kind of funny how we do that. So
Well,
I'm digressing a little
yeah.
bit. Go ahead.
Well, and again, you don't want to make it political, but municipal elections are one of the least attended elections ever. And yet municipal elections decide the school board, decide your mayor, decide
Absolutely.
your aldermen, decide your county commissioners, decide all those people that are making decisions about your life every day. And again, good people doing their best to make good decisions. I truly believe that is true for people. Don't go into the political arena wanting to make the world a worse place.
Sure.
So many people, they go into it because they want to make a difference. And this is how they see themselves making a difference. They have thoughts about how to make that difference possible. But if they don't hear your thought on how you feel and how their decisions impact you, then they're just going to keep going down the road they're on. If you disagree with what they're thinking about, have a meaningful conversation with them. Talk to them about why your idea is different than their idea, and the impact that their idea will have on your life. And then be open to listen to why they came up with the idea they came up with, because that's where we can grow together and come to find a commonality and a common ground, and then move forward in a meaningful way.
It's something. So if you're listening to podcasts, get involved, vote. I was thinking about the elections in Hungary the other day as you were talking, and regardless of the outcome, they had a turnout rate of 77%.
Wow.
Can you imagine if we had 77% of people turn out to vote for anything in America? And in municipal elections, a lot of times those are in they're like low teen digit, like 15% turnout rate, 12%.
Right.
And it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. And honestly, David, I have to say that I didn't understand that until I got into the role I was in. And the more that I was in I learned so much in the last few years about the strength that we have to make our communities better at the local level. But so often we're in our little bubbles. We go into our same little, and we don't branch out from that.
So notes from this podcast: get out to where you're a little bit uncomfortable doing something. Get involved. Get lost. Find out what's going on in your local community, and turn up and vote. Get involved. It's important to everybody in your community, probably more than you know.
Right.
So I guess, wow, we've already covered most of my questions. I had no idea. If someone wants to reach out and get involved with either Platte County Board of Services, how would you recommend that they do that?
I think the best place you can start is through our website, pcbsdd.org. That's Platte County Board of Services Developmental Disabilities.org, but it's pcbsdd.org. Go on there.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yep, there you go. Go on there. There is a link there that you can request more information, and that will go direct to my office, and we'll be able to connect you to who you need to connect it to. That's probably the easiest way. We are on Facebook. We are on Insta, so check us out there. We've got a young creative marketing team that's doing some really cool things. Joe Harmon started a podcast. You can connect there. All kinds of different things that we've got going. Start on our website and go from there.
So it's been a delight to have you on the show, but no one gets out of this interview without this question. This is a personal question.
Okay.
This is not as Platte County Board of Services.
Okay.
Best barbecue in Kansas City.
Best part of being in Kansas City?
No, best barbecue in Kansas City.
Oh, okay. This is going to be tough.
It's important.
I really kind of like Chef Jay.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's illegal to say slaps because they're in KCK, but they're good.
No, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And
if you really, really want really good barbecue, you have to come hang out on my patio every once in a while, because I've learned so much about it since living in Kansas City. My neighbors ask, how many smokers does one person need? And the answer is, who knows? Who knows?
You'll find out. So Martha Jaynes, everyone is invited to barbecue at her place.
There we go.
It's very important. I do have one last question. You said when I said a minute ago, you said, what is the best part about being in Kansas City for you?
The best part about being in Kansas City for me is that my kids grew up. They all got married. They all and they all still live here in the Kansas City area. And I have 6 amazing, wonderful grandchildren. So the best part about being in Kansas City is this is where my family is, and watching us grow together and achieve our dreams is, for me, why Kansas City will always be my home.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Martha, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, thank you for Martha Jaynes, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Platte County Board of Services. Thanks for being on the show. And if you enjoyed this show, please go out and like and give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're enjoying this podcast. You can also check us out. We're going to have this on YouTube, and we'll have all the resources and the people she discussed and talked about in the show notes. So with that, Martha, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
So everybody out there listening, go out there, get lost a little bit, and let's continue to make Kansas City the best place to live, play, and work.
Thank you for listening to the KC Leaders Podcast. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen. For more information about this podcast, you can visit kcleaderspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out our other great podcasts like The Buck Stops Here, streaming now on all major platforms and at thebuckstopsherepodcast.com.